Friends, hello, happy holidays, and welcome to The Mind Behind, episode 3 with me, Spencer Love, and another great individual doing great things for not only professional wrestling, but professional wrestling content creation. It is the handsome and clever Mr. Warren Hayes. Warren, it is great to see you. It's always just great to see you, man.
It is great to see you.
How are you doing? How are things on your end of the Great White North?
Doing better than on Ontario, I'll tell you that much. Am I right, Spencer?
Am I right?
Go around and they're so high and mighty all the time. They're like, hey,
I suppose I don't really have the right to say a lot as an Albertan.
Well, I was going to say, in this, the Alberta-Quebec connection. For once, we can agree on one thing. That right now, Ontario, hey, it kind of feels like karma. Ontario walking around thinking, hey, we harbor the nation's capital. We have the biggest city in the country. Yeah, there you go.
This is what happens when you get the only North American date on a North American tour for the last 25 years. But I'm sure we'll talk concerts. We'll talk everything in between. But I want to talk content. I want to talk Mr. Warren Hayes because every time we've chatted, you've been gracious. You've had me on your platform, of course, over on youtube.com. So I figured let's get you on here. Let's introduce you to a few of the people who, for whatever reason, Warren, have not had the opportunity, pleasure, or privilege of meeting you yet. So give me the elevator pitch. If we were meeting in an elevator, I said, what do, you handsome and clever man? What would you tell me?
Every time, like, he keeps sliding that in, and I'm like, I do a professional wrestling podcast. Every Thursday night, I record live, and then it becomes available on audio platforms everywhere on top of that, and YouTube and everything. But that's essentially it. Sit around and for a couple of hours, or at least close to. Sit around and talk about pro wrestling, WWE, AEW, New Japan are my main squeezes. But whenever you can try and get some extra stuff in there, some indie things as well, that's fantastic. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I opine. I give opinions. That's my thing, and I try to do. I just try to do it with all the enthusiasm that I have as a professional wrestling fan, because if you don't get into wrestling, if you don't watch wrestling with enthusiasm, I don't think I kind of feel
What's the
point? Yeah, you're sort of askew a little bit. It's all about love. It's all about passion. It's all about loving the thing that's pro wrestling, and I try to get that across. Try to find some like-minded people.
And it's something you do a great job of, man. Like, whether it's your work with Fightful or Fansided or even your own work with Bell to Bells, like it is all very positively skewed. You're very good even.
I try.
And when
Jesus, I try.
I've seen some rants. I know your feelings on contract signings as well. But it always does try to skew towards the positive, right? It's something that I've always appreciated. It's something that you did in your interview with another friend of mine, Wrestling Plug Inc. You called it coopetition is, yes. I think the way you described it is one of my new favorite words. Just what got you into wanting to create content? I know you started with Fansided DDT writing articles, but what got you wanting to reach out to them or had them reach out to you, or where did you get your start with it?
I had started, I was in a bit of a wrestling hiatus. I think everyone sort of goes through that when you've been watching for a long period. And for a couple of years previous to 2018, like I hadn't actually been watching, but I had been listening to a bunch of podcasts, a lot of people who were creating content. Steven Larson, at Going in Raw, for instance. The Cultaholic guys when they were still at What Culture, So those were the things that I was into, that I was listening to, and sort of just keeping abreast as to what was going on, but very much from afar. Pop up on Twitter, created an account, didn't even have an account before that, and then you sort of immerse yourself, and I don't know why, I just never realized that there was a certain form, and I hate using the word wrestling media because because in the minds of some people, we're, you know, if you're in wrestling media, you're like part of this Illuminati society of people.
You're not just somebody who paid a WordPress subscription for.
No, exactly. Or opened up a YouTube channel for free. You know,
that's exactly it. None of us, for the most part, I should say, like guys like Sean and Ryan Satin and those sorts of people are your wrestling media. I speak for myself here.
Exactly.
I paid a WordPress subscription and, like you said, started a YouTube channel.
Exactly.
I ain't media.
No, I mean, I had gotten in contact with Kevin, who was Kevin Parvizi, who was the editor-in-chief of Daily DDT at the time. I think they were looking for writers. I think they just put out a call, and I was like, I'll give it a try. And it just worked out really, really well. One of my first articles I wrote was on Asuka because she was debuting on main roster, and I was like, hey, I want to write a review piece or top 5
There's never a bad time to write on Asuka.
No, that's it at the same time. And that wasn't my first few things. And Kevin was so fantastic. Kevin was like technically my first boss in wrestling media, and I still chat with him today, and I still call him boss, and he still hates it. But it was fantastic. Like, he gave me a lot of confidence to do this. Started writing, and eventually I'm like, you know what? The writing's cool, but I would feel much more comfortable if I had, you know, if I did podcasting. So it was always in the back of my mind. And the trigger was one day on Twitter, Sean Ross Sapp tweets out, says, would anyone like to join me for a retro review on Fightful Select? DM me. I DM instantly. I see what. So I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd join you for the retro review. He writes me back. He says, do you have a decent mic? I says, absolutely, I have a decent mic. He says, cool, we record on Friday. So I went outside and bought myself a decent mic. Fake it till you make it, right? So
of course my gear's in the car.
Yeah, exactly. So we record the thing, and it goes really well, and I really like it. And so I'm like, well, look, you know, I have the microphone, I have the setup. That's when I started my YouTube channel. That maybe like a month, 7 to 8 weeks after that, Sean brings me on Select to do reviews for 205 Live, NXT UK. I was awesome, and spent a whole bunch of time there, while in the meantime working on my own platform, then starting to get quite involved with Kristen Ashley, who I actually met at Daily DDT. We were writers. That's how I met Kristen, who was, you know, I'm assuming everyone knows, but Kristen is my fiance. She runs Bell to Bells, and so she started that up, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you out. We've been working at it together since as well. Bell to Bells, which is the our women's wrestling website, the Women's Wrestling Wire, like we like to call it.
Empire. Put the crown on it.
So yeah, all of these things put together is like, you know, I just enjoyed it so much, and I, you know, I felt at some point, look, there's no one who does this who doesn't have a smidgen of an ego, right? Like no, but I mean, let's be honest.
You're not wrong.
Even you, I mean, Spenny, you're one of the nicest guys I know, and you know, I'd never say, Spencer Love, egotistical son of a bitch.
Egotistical and having an ego is two different things, though.
There you go. Like, there's just that if we do this, it's because we're like, you know what? I have something to add to the conversation. I have something to say. I have a viewpoint that I would like to get across. So ultimately, that's kind of what you do. You jump in this, and you're like, okay, well, I'll throw my voice in here, and you kind of touch wood. You're like, you know what? I just hope someone listens. And when people do start listening, you're like, man, okay, this is really cool. And it gives you powers. It emboldens you. You want to do more. You want to keep doing it. And it really feels good. And right now I'm at a point where I'm like, you know, I'm really doing my own thing, focusing on my thing. But what I really want is to create a community, because I've realized that the people who do come to my shows are extraordinary people. Really fantastic people. A lot of these people, by the way, I've started a revival of Stampede Wrestling with, which I know you're already aware.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
I'm sure you've heard
I think
of.
I'm a financial backer or something along those lines, if I've been told correctly.
Exactly.
I thought we were keeping that on the down low.
No, well, I mean, we have to bring this up at some point, right? We've got
Can I send, well, as long as I can send this out as like a Warren Hayes shoots hard on Stampede Wrestling after, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like if I can break this as an exclusive, we'll go with it. But excuse me, sorry, our Stampede revival and the fantastic people in your comment section.
There you go. No, but honestly, like these are part of the jokes that we develop amongst ourselves within this group. You know, they come to the shows, and this is the thing that blows my mind, is that I record every Thursday night, and there's a bunch of people who come in live every Thursday, and they're on the dot. There's people who hang out there and just and it's very, very humbling. Since it really, really is. You're like, my God, like these people are like, I'm taking time out of my day. And I could be watching anything, not just TV. I could be watching any other YouTube channel out there. I'm like, no, I'm going to come and hang out here. And they enjoy it. I opened up a Discord. They came. So it, to me, like, and you realize that a lot of the people who congregate together are very, very like-minded. They just want a place to talk wrestling with people who have the same affinities and likes. And of course, there's disagreements, but never to the point of disrespect. And I'm very proud of that. So that's something that I want to. That's kind of where I am. I want to create a really cool, fun place where people can all gather around, talk wrestling without feeling judged, without feeling like there's a war going on and there's sides you have to pick. You know, it's just like, let's just talk wrestling, man. That's ultimately what I'm in for.
Absolutely, man. I want to get back to that point you made there a little bit earlier about starting to grow in the following and all of that sort of stuff. But I want to make sure if we're encouraging comments and interactivity, we give good shouts to good people. Tom Hoppin and Warren Hayes, the legend. I completely agree. Look at that stunner, says the Dan Heyman. I don't know who he's talking about, but I can only assume not me.
Spencer.
This guy.
Yeah, this side. Yeah,
we've got Wrestling Plug Inc. hopping in. Warren Rules.
Hey,
thank you very much, friend. I quite enjoyed the interview you guys did. I think it was November or so. I do my research when I have guests on here. Sorry, I'll get back to your question. There's a few in here. Wrestling Plug Inc. Sam, nice to see you, friend. What's up, Warren?
Hello, Sam.
What's up with you? I'm conducting a conversation with a good friend of mine. What are you doing?
Oh, what am I doing? I'm being conducted in an interview by a good friend of mine.
Excellent. Glad to hear that, Canadian dude hopping in. Stampede forever.
Woo!
But glad to have your support right off the bat. It means a lot. It'll be tough to drum up business for Stampede, especially when we don't have anything to do with the wrestling promotion going yet. But we'll get there eventually. Every Thursday. I'm there every Thursday. You're one of the few I've got reminders on for as far as my YouTube stuff goes. And then a Kristen Ashley 2 hopping in saying he's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm absolutely okay.
Well, and I wanted to hop back here before we got back to sort of the conversation we were having there. I love Bell to Bells, and I know that I do as well.
Thank you.
I'm sure I speak for a lot of people in the comments there. Both you and Kristen do a great, great job. So maybe tell me how that came about, and then take the chance to put over Kristen. Let's put over good people when we've got the chance.
Absolutely. Kristen had been writing for a while at a couple of websites. She was, there's things that a whole bunch of different places, and eventually she was like, you know what? I just want to be. She wanted to create a site where she could truly do some advocacy for women's wrestling. You know, maybe focus on the people, the women, and what they bring to the table. And she wanted to have her own place where she could write her own stuff, and just hopefully at the same time become a voice for women's wrestling at the same time, which I think she has completely succeeded in with Bell to Bells. I mean, I jumped in from the get-go as a co-owner. We also have our friend Lauren Founds as well, who is a third co-owner of Bell to Bells, and the three of us together. Well, that's the vision. That's the vision we had, and that we kind of feel we're really getting into. We're coming much closer to what we had envisioned at first these days, because we're focusing more on, like I said, the women, thinking about women's wrestling, putting forward the big events, the moments, having some thoughts about, so let's go right ahead and use the word thought pieces on what's happening within the world of women's wrestling, as opposed to, bringing up news. It's like just your humdrum run of the mill news that you can pick up on any aggregator.
This person signed
and
here
at the same time. And I'm talking about humdrum, but there's a lot of people who do it very, very well and would do it better than us regardless, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I love what you guys do, and like you say, it's not just this person signed with this promotion. It's the story behind them. It's how they got there. It's everything in how they got to signing with the promotion, not just sort of the clickbait headline of it, if that makes sense, right?
Exactly. And even on top of that, highlighting the independence as well. Because
I love the review you did with, or not the review, the preview. There's so many U's in professional wrestling that you did with Zello Pro the other day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's super cool. They came to us and they were like, look, we have these great women's matches that are coming up, and we did the reveal. Of course, that was on my channel because we were talking about the guys, but like Bell to Bells got the jump on everyone, announcing the main event, which is going to be Lainey Luck versus Jordan Grace for the Zello Pro Women's Championship. That's on May 1st, by the way, and you'll be able to watch that on Fight TV as well. Just so you know.
You're a great electrician, Warren, but you got a lot of cheap plugs.
So that's it. So here's a little scoop. See, we've got some interviews lined up with the Zello women coming up over the next couple of days. So that's in the pipe. So that's part of the stuff that we want to do as well. Of course, talking about Sasha and Bianca, that's fantastic, right? It's stuff to be proud about.
Literally making history.
Exactly, and you have to report on that as well. But another cool thing that we were really fortunate to be a part of last year was the PWI's top 100 women's list, and we worked very, very closely with PWI to interview some of the women who were on that list, and I had a chance to talk to them, and Kristen had a chance to talk with some. We even have our friend Ella J as well. So there's and all. Here's the thing: is that a lot of these women on the independent circuit, they are so proud to be on that list, and they're so proud to be able to talk about what they do, and because they don't always have the chance, they don't always have the platform or the reason, or whatever. So I mean, I had a chance to talk with so many women. I got a chance to talk to Priscilla Kelly through that before she got called up. So to me, I'm like, I consider myself lucky. Get to talk to Session Moth Martina, get a Giselle Shaw, our Canadian standard overseas. I had a chance to talk with her. Riley Shepard, who's coming up on the independent circuit. Trisha Dora, who is absolutely one of my favorite wrestlers.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
So being able to provide a platform like that, and I don't want to sound like we're like, oh yeah, we are the platform, but we're one amongst others. And I think that our voice, what we want to bring forward with that, I think it's important because because I think women's wrestling to a certain degree gets lost in a deluge of a whole bunch of other stuff, which is completely understandable. But I think it's okay to have moments reserved for that as well. That's what we try to do.
Yeah, it's like, it's a bit of an obvious comparison, I guess, but there are so many times where WWE or even All Elite Wrestling has been guilty of it, of beating people over the head with their historic firsts and their historic firsts. But when Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair are main eventing WrestleMania, that is a historic first. Right? There's no arguing.
No, there's no argument. But then that's the thing, right? Is that when it stops being historic firsts, that's when it becomes crucial to continue talking about keeping women in the conversation, women's wrestling, to keep it in the conversation and keep it on a platform. Because you could argue, as the date that we are taping this right now, WWE ain't doing great with their women's division these days. Like since November, I think there's a fair case to say that, well, Spinny, yeah, it's been kind of shit. It hasn't been great. So, now that they're out of first time evers, when did WWE suddenly get really, really excited about a women's match again? It was Sasha and Bianca, because it was a first time ever, right?
Yeah. And it's even frustrating too. And I will give the caveat. I understand where the comparisons come from of, well, it's a 2-night event. The main event is the main event of the second night. But you even see P.S. Hayes tweeting out the other day about the second night being the only main event. And you're right. You're completely right. And that's somewhere where when you're given the opportunity to highlight something that is historic, that is not only a first time ever, but a first time ever in multiple different facets.
Sure.
Why you would be trying to find reasons to undercut that, I really don't know. But I do want to transition real quick here because Warren Hayes, the drinking game I never told you about, but was implemented on my notes pad here. Take a drink because it finally happened. Somebody said it's a fun Twitch stream, you guys.
There you go. Thanks, Dan.
I was waiting for that. How did that catch on? Like, was it a conscious thing? It's one of my favorite things. It warms my heart every time I'm watching a pro wrestling event and I see you talking about a fun match.
I don't.
You guys.
I don't, like, honestly, I just started doing it, right? How much shit posting do you do on Twitter, right? I mean, ultimately, it's what it is. And I can't quite remember doing it. But then at some point, people start liking it. They start interacting, and I do it more often. And people are like, oh, another fun match. Yeah, another fun match. It's a goof. And then ultimately, I'm kind of like, well, this is as close to a rating scale as I have, because I have fun match, good match, great match.
Yeah.
And that's my scale, and it's just as simple as and a fun match.
Are you ever gonna Meltzer it? Are you ever gonna do a really fun match? This is a really fun match, you guys.
This is an excellent match, you guys. Yeah, he's like, oh my God, he broke the scale. Or then you pull out the thesaurus, and it's like, this is a ubiquitous match. You guys, wow.
And that's when a third of the viewers drop off, because even for me, I'd be sitting there like, Warren, I don't understand that. I don't get it. But it is pretty cool, man. And I like the fact that earlier you bring up a following. It's always a fun thing for me to ask, because I know when it's brought up for me, like, Spencer, is it cool for you to have a bit of a following? I cringe. And I love asking people it, especially when they're just better at what they do than I am. Warren,
come on.
When did you start to realize you were growing a bit or starting to gain some traction with what you were doing in content creation? There is, got to be that light bulb moment or that interview that somebody responded to finally or something along those lines, right?
Is there well, I mean, look, one of the things that was really helped me out without a question was being platformed on Fightful. When I was doing stuff on Fightful, I mean, that, of course, there was a lot of easy crossover that was happening there. I think the moment, when was the moment where I'm like, wow, okay. I think it's probably at some point where I pop on to a Steven Larson podcast and I just drop them a super chat, just something that and not like a $50 one, chump change, especially since I'm paying them in Canadian dollars, right? So they're like,
it could have been $50 Canadian, and it still would have been
exactly.
a $3 American sort of situation.
And then I drop it, and they go, "Hey, it's Mr. Warren Hayes," and they know who I am, and I'm like, okay, these are two guys that I was watching before doing this, and I was like, okay, these guys they're a bit of a standard. I love what they do. If I could ever reach their level, I'd be to the moon, actually. And they're like, hey, it's Mr. Warren, and I'm like, cool. And then, of course, at some point, you realize we're like, hey, getting interviews and talking with people, and they know. They know what you're about. You're like, this is pretty neat. So yeah, you are creating something, you are developing something. And and I think the most interesting part of it is when it reverberates with your community, with the people that are around you, that jump in the Discord, that jump on your streams. When they see you getting these interviews or getting these cool moments, they prop you up even more.
I was gonna say, yeah,
and that's so
coopetition. Yeah. I'm so bad at saying that word, but I'll get there. I love it. Coopetition.
Yes, it's the idea that we're all angling for the same mind space, right? We're all competing with each other because we have, wrestling, internet wrestling, like it's a sliver of a demographic, right? It's a sliver of a demographic.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to get that mind share. But I think that, we're also, if everyone props each other up, works together to sort of elevate each other, if everyone looks good, it's good for everyone, even the smallest podcasters will look good if the big ones do well, because it's just as simple as that. So
a rising tide raises all boats.
There you go. See, that's you'd swear you're from the Maritimes. Are you from Nova Scotia originally?
I am not.
That's a very coastal way of seeing things,
especially from someone who's in a landlocked province.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Surrounded by mountains. Yeah.
Well, mountains on one side, and then we've got Saskatchewan, so we can pretty well see Manitoba across Alberta.
Pretty much.
And that ain't a shot at Saskatchewan. Everyone on the stream knows I'm a Saskatchewan fan myself. Warren, I want to give the opportunity to you before we close her out here to give some shout outs, some opportunity, some anything you want to describe it as, to some people that you feel deserve some recognition in the content creation space, because there's just simply not enough of that. I know you're a guy who's great at it, but there can always be more. Is there anybody out there that you feel maybe deserves a little bit of that market share, or that little bit of space that you were talking about?
There are so many people. It's ridiculous. Kristen Ashley, Bell to Bells. Kristen is... I mean, if you guys even saw a quarter of what she does behind the scenes to work on Bell to Bells and everything that she has her fingers in, you'd all be in awe. And I think that I think you should go follow her. I think she is a fantastic voice for women's wrestling. I think she's important. I think she's crucial. And she doesn't compromise. She doesn't compromise on her visions like that. And that's what shakes the boat sometimes. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay at the same time. Belltobells.com. Go follow that. Follow my boy Mags, DJ Kirby. He does everything. Mags, he's one of the oldest podcasters, not old in age, but he is old.
I'm not old, I'm 37.
That's what he'd say. That's what he wants you to believe, right? Mags is fantastic, and he's such a sweet guy, and he never misses an opportunity to put me over as well. So right back at you, my dude. Ella J, a wrestling gal.
Bingo.
Fantastic lady. Just we've started working together. She was on my show recently. Just a wonderful, wonderful person to work with. Check out the Brothers of Discussion, who are
great name.
Legitimate two guys. Legitimate brothers is what I wanted to say. One part hockey fans, one part wrestling fans. Those guys are absolutely tremendous as well. I absolutely love them. And now the thing is that I'm going to be forgetting people, and I feel bad. And I want to give a huge shout out to everyone on the Mr. Warren Hayes Discord. If you want to join, please do. I tweet out the link a whole bunch of times. Just a fantastic group of people from Ben, Anakin, Evan, Sean, DGMC, Aaron Entertainment, Michael, Rev. I'm forgetting people for sure, but such a great group of people who hang out there and make it a great spot to chat about wrestling all the time. Thank you, and they deserve a shout out for being just the best community around.
Well, sorry, Vanessa says, hey, that's fine. If we ever go over time because we're talking about great people. Like Vanessa says, it is an endless list of great people out there. This is the second comment. Spencer drinking the Stella tonight. The other thing that I have to do is drink some Stella again with my good friend Warren Hayes. This is a fun stream, you guys.
Thank you. Well, we might even upgrade it to good. We might even upgrade it to good.
This is a good stream. Oh,
I
my
think
God.
so. I think we'll go there.
When I learn how to clip things on Twitch, I'm going to clip that right there, and I will be sending her out pretty well everywhere. Warren, it's been an absolute blast, man. I absolutely love chatting with you, whether it's wrestling, everything in between, inside or outside of it. It's been great to chat with you. If anybody wants to join, part of what Wrestling Plug is saying is a killer community.
And Pluggo's part of it too. I'm sorry, man. Pluggo is part of it too. See, I knew I'd forget something and I'd feel super. It's all Spencer's fault. It's Spencer's fault that I forgot you, Pluggo. He put me on the spot. I would have put out I'm so sorry. Spencer Love, I am coming for you.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm going to get shit on in the comments tomorrow night on the Slate.
Yeah.
It's going to be a terrible, 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 terrible time, but only because I'm getting shit on, not because of any of the content that Warren is out. It's been an absolute blast, and luckily enough, friends, if you got a good thing going, let's keep it going. So next week, I unfortunately do not have a cool graphic because I haven't gotten my stuff together. It's been a busy week, but the individual that Warren took the time to ever so just beautifully put over, Mr. Mags, is going to be joining me next week on The Mind Behind It. Is going to be an absolute blast. You guys have seen him on the Sunday brunch. I know you guys will love him as much as I do and as much as Warren does. Just wait till Thursday, Spencer. I will with bated breath because it means I will be tuning into the Mr. Warren Hayes show. But where can I do that, Warren? Plug your stuff.
YouTube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Subscribe. Go right ahead. And we record live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. The links can be found for the Discord. I keep putting it over, but it's there as well. The YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes.
Fantastic as always, my friend. Like I said, I can guarantee to you I will be tuned in tomorrow if you're doing the Slate, Thursday for sure, for your regularly scheduled programming and every other chance I've got, my friend. It's a blast to talk to you. It's a blast to watch you do your thing in professional wrestling, and I can't wait to see you on here again sooner rather than later. Friends, if you guys are watching on Twitch, you guys will see a countdown going. We are going to raid our good friend Ditz. If you guys are watching on YouTube or Facebook, you guys are going to hear the overly epic music that kicked off this show and subsequently will end it for Mr. Warren Hayes, the handsome and clever Mr. Warren Hayes. I'm Spencer Love. Thank you for tuning in to Love Wrestling and The Mind Behind.